So I pulled out this divider and I'm going to make some pockets on this one. I'll just move this aside. I'm going to use this paper, and there will be 2 long pockets. I'm going to make the first pocket out of this paper, and then this second pocket will cover like that, and the end of the paper will be covered with this paper as well. So I start by measuring how much I need for my pocket, and I'm just going to sort of eyeball that. So here are the holes, and I'm going to position this about 1/8 of an inch away from the holes where the rings go through. And my first pocket will be about up to here. So I'm just going to cut this lengthwise. So that's going to go like that. Next, I measure how long it needs to be. So again, I'm just going to position that on here, and I'm going to leave about 1/8 of an inch at each end. So like that. But then I need to form some flaps that will fold under, so I'm going to add 1 inch to that. And I'll have 2 1/2-inch flaps. That goes like that. Next, I score at 1/2 inch. And 1/2 inch. That's perfect. Next, I'm going to make my other pocket, and again I'm going to eyeball. Now for this one, I'm going to need to have my flaps at the top and the bottom, but I'm also going to have one at the back, and that's going to fold underneath this one, and it's going to hold everything inside. So I'm going to start by measuring for the width. I think it'll be about halfway the size of this one. So that goes here, and I position that on my trimmer, and I'm going to add my 1/2 inch for the flap on the back. And then I want my flaps at the top and bottom, so I can just go ahead and cut this the same size as my first pocket. Then I can just fold this over like that. Now before I attach this to my pocket, I'm going to ink the edges, but I also have to do my my fold at the back. That will go like that, and I need to trim off this little corner here. Ink the edges. Start by attaching this on the back of the second pocket. A bottle of glue, and I have to cut the tip. There we go. And next I'm going to glue down the side flaps. Before I do that, I'm going to finish inking. I'm going to attach these two pieces together, or actually I don't even need to do that. I can just trim off the excess from this one. I can trim up to there, but yeah, no, I'll just go ahead and glue that down. And I think I'm also going to glue down these little corners. I don't want to put any glue in this section because that's going to stop my papers from sliding in, or my tags. There's a number of ways to make these double pockets, but this is a very easy way to do it. Now I can just position that on here. And that's going to dry. And in the meantime, I'm going to cut my paper to mat inside the top pocket. I only need a strip about that wide to cover. Like that, and then I'm going to trim off some height. And this is going to be the same length as a pocket. So I just trim a little bit on the inside so that it can slide in. And that will go like that. So I'm going to ink around my edges. I don't need to do this side because it's going to be hidden by the pocket. I'm going to apply some glue. Now I only need to apply glue from here around. I don't need to put any here because it's going to be held down by the pocket anyways. And it makes it a lot easier to slide in if I only have the glue on this edge. And then just a little bit going down here. And that should be plenty. Oh, I put the glue on the wrong edge. Well, I'll just ink this side then. This is two-directional paper, so I guess I'm lucky. It doesn't matter which way it goes, as long as I've got the glue on the outside. So there's my pocket, and I can slide some tags either in this one or in this one. next, I think I'm going to add an envelope to my dividers. I'm going to make a very simple style of envelope on this divider. And I'm going to use this beautiful pink paper. To get started, I'm going to decide what size I want to make it. And I think I'm going to go about 8 inches or just over 8 inches, and maybe just have a little punch border on either side, or the top and bottom, and my envelope's going to open to the left. So if I want my envelope to measure 8, say 8¼ inches, I'm going to add an extra inch for the flaps at the top and bottom. So I'm going to cut my paper to measure 9¼ inches. So this is going to be the top and the bottom, and I want 9¼ inches, so I'm going to reverse this over onto this side. 9¼ like that. And then next I'm going to score 1/2 inch at the top and bottom. So I place that like that. It over and 1/2 inch down this way. So next I need to figure out how wide I want my envelope, and I want my hearts facing up at the bottom, so it's going to be like that. Say about 5 inches. So that's going to fold over like that. I'm going to score at 5 inches. Like that. Now these are going to be the flaps that will fold under my envelope, and I'm going to trim these excess flaps off. I'll just move this away for now. And then I just cut straight across to remove the flaps. And I fold these under like that. I'm going to go ahead and glue these right now. measure where I want my flap to fold. I can either have it fold directly down, or I can leave a little bit of a gap here if I wanted to be a little bit wider, and I think I will do that. I'll leave it a little bit wider. I'll leave about 1/4 inch. That's pretty good. And now I want to cut these at a bit of an angle, but I'm not going to cut from here all the way up because that will leave this edge here exposed. I've cut this about 1/4 inch out, so I'm going to leave another 1/4 inch before I cut my angle. Like that, and I hold my piece, I just flip it over because I want both of them to be the same. And now you can see that when I fold it down, the edge inside here is covered. So I'm going to ink all the way around. I guess I'll just ink around the inside of the flap as well. Now that's going to stick in my journal like that. I want a tie to keep the flap closed. So I've got this embroidery thread that I'm going to use. I'm going to pull some of this out, and it's going to tie from the top down to the bottom, and then it's going to loop back up again. And I've got these little brads that I'm going to use. And then I've got a plain one for the bottom. So now I'm going to punch a hole on my top flap, and I'm going to measure out the halfway mark. So that's about here. And I'm going to position it about there. I'm just going to tie the thread around the brad. And I can do that a few times. And you can leave it stick out. I'm just going to trim off the end. Now you can always stick something over here if you don't want to have the prongs exposed. Next, I'm going to attach my bottom prong, and again I'm just going to use my piercing tool and eyeball that. I don't need it to be this long. These brads are quite long. I'm going to trim off the ends here. So I've opened up the prongs on the inside. You can also do this before you actually glue the sides of your envelope if you prefer. And then again, you can put a little piece of paper in there if you don't want the prongs to touch whatever you're putting in. If you're putting in photos in there, you don't want to scratch them. So I'm going to close this just like that. I'm going to put a little bit of trim at the top and the bottom of my envelope. I'm going to grab my punch and I'm going to punch a border. So I think that's going to be good like that. I'm going to trim it about here. And then another one. Ink the tops. Grab my page for reference to make sure it's going to fit. Yep, that's good. like how that looks. And now I'm going to glue my envelope in position. And I can center that on my page. Well, I ended up with a little bit of glue on the front of my envelope, and when I tried to rub it away, of course it made it worse. So I just fixed it by attaching another little border that I punched from the same cardstock. So there's always a way to fix these little bugaboos.